We are back, Ep.7. I am Jake Ellenbogen, your host of the Jake Ellenbogen Show. Be sure to subscribe on all podcast platforms wherever you're listening to this. Leave a review, preferably 5 stars. And man, I have a loaded episode. I have so much I want to talk about. I almost died today, recording this on a Sunday, late Sunday night. But I almost died today, so, I'm going to get into exactly how that happened. Definitely not what I expected to be talking about on this podcast, but hey, that's what the perks of having a miscellaneous, unfiltered, uncensored podcast are for. So yeah, that happened, and I'll touch on that. I'll touch on Caitlin Clark getting banged up. It looks like she's going to be okay, but she got banged up after... it looks like, fans and, cameraman and whatever, stormed the court after Iowa got, upset. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that. And we're also going to be talking about the NFL playoffs, the conclusion of the divisional round, my thoughts on the 2 games today between the Lions and Buccaneers and the Chiefs and Bills. I'll give my, my thoughts on the rooting interest next week between the Lions and the 49ers. So I'm going to, I'll touch on that. And we'll have ourselves a, podcast. So let's talk about it, right? First thing, how the fuck did Jake almost die? Well, today I'll say this. I'm joking, and I'm glad to, be in a position where I can joke around about it. I'm not joking. I totally almost died. But, I have to say that I really am thankful to be alive, and I'm lucky to be able to joke about it on a show instead of you hearing about it, in an article or whatever it would be. Anyway, so I'm just driving on the highway. I get off and exit, and man, you ever just, you're driving and somebody in front of you just kind of, I don't know what it is, but there's kind of a feel where they're like off a little bit. I'm not saying necessarily they're drunk, but they're just not driving how you would normally drive. Like, and I'm not saying you personally, I'm saying just in general, like a driver wouldn't normally drive like that. I don't know if you've ever experienced that yourself, but for me, I just kind of slowed down a little bit. I was like, you know what, this person's kind of, they're kind of undecided about where they want to go. It kind of looks like they're going to, merge into the next lane, even though there's a car there. And, and I'm watching them as they, kind of slow down a little bit, and then they speed up, and then they're, going all over the lines and stuff. And I'm really good at tracking. I've always been good at tracking my car, even back when I was taking like lessons or, doing the road test or whatever. Tracking, which is, of course, staying in the lines of a lane, like in the middle, like, not leaning one way or another. That's always been something I've been good at, and just watching people, sometimes they struggle, and okay, that is what it is. This wasn't that, though. This person was like really having a rough time. And I was concerned because I kind of had it in my mind that the person was going to turn into the other lane. And we're getting off the exit ramp, which is basically there's this circle that you go around, and then it puts you back into another position where I'm really bad at describing roads, so sorry. But it puts you in another position where you got to either merge onto the next road, the next highway, if you will, or you have to get off all the way off onto another ramp. It's kind of dangerous in general. So we're going around this circle. There's 2 lanes. If you got off, there's an exit. If you go straight, there's 2 lanes. I'm in the right lane. There's the left lane. The person obviously in front of me is in the right lane, and there's a person right next to them in the left lane. And all of a sudden, I get this feeling in my mind, like I'm listening to the new Green Day record that I was talking about, Saviors, and I'm singing along, and I had just done voice to text. I texted somebody, and I'm on my way to go play, golf simulator, golf. And I don't know what it is, but at that moment I was like, you know what? I'm going to slam my brakes here. And I don't normally slam my brakes, but I did not like the vibe I was seeing in front of me. The reason I slammed him is because there was nobody behind me yet. So I looked beforehand and I slammed my brakes a little bit, and I didn't like slam them, but you know what I mean? I slowed down considerably. And all of a sudden, I see the person in front of me put on a blinker to go to the left, and I'm thinking, they're not about to do a lane change into the guy, are they? And sure fucking enough, this motherfucker put on their blinker and merged right into somebody in the lane change. Now, we're going around a fucking circle when this happens. So what ends up happening is, the cars start getting in my way. I had a NASCAR moment where you have an accident and there's always that one car that you're like, how the hell did they not get touched? They're able to weave in and out of traffic or whatever. So what happened was I had two cars go sideways, blocking both lanes at one point. And I was able to maneuver around, like swerve around. And I only had enough real estate because I had slowed down earlier. And I mean, good God, I was so dead if I didn't do it. But because I slowed down earlier, I was able to get out of the way before they completely took me out. And I, basically when they were coming down into my lane, I swerved around and got into the left lane and then zoomed by. Hope they're both okay, but, even including the idiot. But man, I mean, there's not a ton to the story. That is just the story. It really, simply put, I thought something was not right. I didn't get good vibes about the way somebody in front of me was driving. I always have followed the rule, the law that I always follow, that my dad ingrained into my mind. You have to drive on the road like everyone else is an idiot. You have to assume everyone on the road is an idiot. If you assume otherwise and you make decisions based on the fact you think everyone else is as good of a driver of you as you or better, you're going to get into an accident. So for me, after just going and getting my car serviced and getting new tires recently and getting new brakes and spending all this money on my car, I didn't want to get into an accident. But for my livelihood, I'm not trying to die, obviously. So yeah, really, really freaky, scary. Just the fact I was able to get out of that, thank God for that. But it is a reminder. I know a lot of people will first, make it about, God, and it's not, I don't want to get in religion or anything. Yes, I'm thankful. But at the same time, I'm aware of the fact that you have to drive smart. I hope this is kind of a lesson where, guys, I've done it before. If they caught me in just the wrong place with the wrong time where, this time, okay, I slowed down a little bit and I stopped singing and I focused on the road. But, times in the past, maybe I have been, I've been doing, the screamo for a metal song or whatever. And, there's a big breakdown and I get really into it. And then maybe I don't have enough focus on the road at that point and I can't swerve out of it. And so I get into the accident. Being on a circle road, essentially, while this shit's happening is absolutely bonkers. And there's no love lost. Like if you they flew off the road. That's why I hope everyone's okay, because if you fall off the side, I was able to swerve out of the way and stay on the road going into the other lane. But if they fly off the road, there's no guardrail, there's nothing. They're going off, it's almost a little bit of a cliff. They're still, there's still land. Like, you can land and it's okay. It's not a ditch, but it's not a great spot. Like, you definitely, that's the worst spot to get into an accident. I hope everyone's okay, but yeah, crazy fucking story. And, my friend's waiting for me, and I just called him up, and I'm like, I can't believe this motherfucker just tried to merge into somebody. I mean, I was like, I don't know if you guys ever played NASCAR Thunder 2003. It's so specific too. But EA used to make NASCAR games, and NASCAR Thunder 2003 was like my childhood. And they had this mode where you could be a NASCAR driver. Okay. And you could be any of them. They would have a story. They'd have some crazy thing that happened in real life, and you could reenact that, in a mission. So I'll never forget. I mean, obviously I'll never forget it because I was 8 years old when this shit came out, and I still remember it to this day. Elliott Sadler, who used to be really good, he had the M&M's car before Kyle Busch did. But Elliott Sadler was this really good driver at the time, and he had a mission that you could do in that game where there were like 25 out of 43 drivers that all get like, there's this giant accident, and he was talking about it, and then you have to race it, and you have to like rewrite history essentially. And it was crazy because all these cars would just start flying all over the place. There's this huge accident. There's cars flipping everywhere, and you have to like get out of, you have to get out of that wreck without getting touched. So not even just like getting hit, getting out of it as long as you're okay. Like, no, you can't even get touched. That's how I felt. I felt like fucking Elliott Sadler from 2003 NASCAR Thunder game. Like, it was crazy. And maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but I really don't feel like I am, because I had two cars like diving down into the far right lane. It could have been bad. It really could have been bad. I would really just assume that I would have died 100%. I mean, I would have broken my neck. Like, that's what would have happened. So thank God for that. Yeah, I feel like I'm lucky, but at the same time, I feel like I was just being smart, and I'm glad I was smart because, there have been times I've been driving. It's not that I'm a reckless driver. I'm far from it. I don't think I've ever driven like 90, and I don't drive really 85 or 80. I normally am like around 75 on the highway, 70. You guys would probably hate me, but yeah, I don't drive super fast. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those times where it was like, I really felt like something was up, and I trust my instincts, and I trust my gut. Always trust your gut, folks. I hope that helps. Moving on, since I talked about that for a while. Caitlin Clark. Okay. I really wanted to talk on this because I've said for a while, and I don't care if I'm, okay, boomer, whatever. I don't care. Court storming is fucking stupid. Okay? I don't care. You know what court storming is for? I'll give you a hint. It's not for a Power 5 school that gets an upset. If it's not for them. If you're storming the court, your team better be the prayer. I don't even know what was it, the Bible studies school, Bible studies. There's this one school, but anyway, it better be a fucking low budget, very unexpected David versus Goliath matchup. It better not fucking be the Ohio State University, number 18 in the country, women's basketball, storming the fucking court at home against Iowa. Okay? Iowa's the number 2 team in the country. I get it. Big game. You're 15-3. Iowa's 18-2. But Ohio State is 18th. You're not a Division 3 school. It's not like the Citadel just knocked off Kansas in men's basketball. So they stormed the court, and Caitlin Clark, who's the best women's basketball player in the country, Maybe she's the best women's basketball player ever by the end of her career. She's on a crazy pace. She drops 45. They lose by 8 in OT. And these motherfuckers storm the court and hurt her. And I understand now, okay, it sounds like she's okay. That is not the fucking point. I don't need Caitlin Clark to have a torn ACL to justify being upset. Caitlin Clark should not have had to deal with that at the end of a fucking game. Definitely not against Ohio State. Are we just going to storm the court anytime something happens? See, to me, that's trespassing. And basically, if Caitlin Clark gets hit after the game, that's assault. And you can say, oh, it was by accident. Yeah, well, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid. Get these people off the goddamn court. It is so fucking stupid. I mean, when is this shit going to end? Oh, Jake, it's part of college, whatever. Like, I don't fucking care. You can't tell me that's the only thing you're going to remember of your college experience. Oh, remember that time we stormed the court? I mean, good God. It's just pathetic, man. It's absolutely pathetic. Storming the field, all that. I hate that shit. I absolutely hate that shit. And I just think, you know, I'm glad Caitlin Clark seems to be okay. But this is just stupid. It's so bad. I mean, Oklahoma stormed the court after beating Alabama in an SEC Big 12 showdown. Oklahoma is going to be in the SEC next year. Like, are you kidding me? You're the basketball program. Alabama just got good. I'm sure they've been good in the past, but it's just like, this shit is insane. It's absolutely insane. And my thing is, it's not like this is the first time there's ever been an injury. Do you remember when Iowa State completed a 20-point comeback against Iowa? By the way, I don't know what it is with people storming the court on Iowa and injuring people, but that's the way it is. So it wasn't a player, but Randy Peterson, a sports writer for Des Moines Register, got tripped by a female fan who was joining a court storm. He fractured his tibia and fibula and was placed in an air cast and had to be removed on a stretcher and had to get surgery the next day. So, like, here's the thing. Randy Peterson, aka a sports writer who's trying to do his fucking job in 2015 when that happened, he has a right to be on the court. He's trying to get interviews. Okay? Or either that or he's trying to get ready to go to the locker room or the presser, you know, and get quotes. That fan has no business being on the court. Absolutely none. And that shit is just unacceptable. And it has to stop. It's absolutely, how bad does it have to get? I mean, Iowa and Iowa State, you're storming the court? Jesus. I mean, when Florida Gulf Coast beat Miami, okay. But at the same time, Miami wasn't great. Colorado State beat number 12 San Diego State. I mean, here's the thing. You storming the court against a team in your division, your conference essentially, also looks pathetic. Wisconsin beat number 1 Ohio State back when I think it was Jared Sullinger was on Ohio State. They stormed the court. Providence beat number 19 UConn years ago. Notre Dame beat Kentucky. I mean, Maryland beat NC State. They absolutely went nuts. Now, Wisconsin-Milwaukee, the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee beat Butler, who was number 21. That's interesting. I don't hate that as much. But I mean, Michigan, you had Michigan fans storming the court over number 15 UConn. Wake Forest over number 18 NC State. Butler over Gonzaga. UNC over Duke. I mean, like, holy hell. Why would you admit that your little brother? I don't understand that. Iowa over Illinois. San Diego State after winning the NIT. I mean, Iowa over Minnesota. People call, not Iowa, Indiana. People call Indiana a blue blood. Now, are they? That's to be debated, but people call them a blue blood. No blue blood program should have fans storming the court when they beat an unranked Minnesota team. I mean, I can't. I just can't. It's just hilarious. UCLA stormed the court after they beat Washington and like the world almost ended. You guys get my point. It's fucking stupid. But besides the fact it's dumb, it's also extremely dangerous. See, storming the field in football, I also think is stupid. But a football field is much bigger. I at least can get the fuck out of the way. If I'm a basketball player, I'm kind of fucked. You're not even going to let me, shake hands with the other team. You're not going to let me have sportsmanship, be a good person. No, you're going to storm the court. You're going to hit me. You're going to make contact with me. You're going to shove me. When all you do is you pay to be there to watch the game. You don't pay for entry onto the court after the game is over. It is something that needs to be heavily, heavily, heavily penalized against. Because it's a problem. It's always been a problem. It doesn't matter if it's women's, men's. It doesn't matter if it's football. It doesn't matter if it's basketball. Storming the field, the court, that's just trespassing. That's no different than going on a baseball field at the end of a fucking baseball game. Walk-off home run, you're storming the field. Yeah, we'll see how well that goes. So, hate it. I want it gone. I don't care if I sound like a quote-unquote boomer. And look, I know a lot of opinions, like their opinions, but if you're on the side of people not being able to storm the court, how are you in the wrong? Like, I understand, there's no right or wrong on most things and, things are opinions and all that. This is not an opinion. This is fact. So what are the pros and cons? The pro, you get to have a memorable celebration on the court. The con, people can get hurt. People can get trampled and killed. People can get seriously injured. Players can get injured. Coaches can get injured. Media staff can get injured. I'm sure in some cases it's a fucking fire hazard as well. It's just, get rid of it, man. I don't care. I'm over the whole, it's the college experience. No, act like a normal law-abiding citizen. Because all you're doing is trespassing and you're basically using your team winning as an explanation. Like, if they just started arresting people after court stormings and, you go to court and they like a literal court afterwards to defend yourself, and you said, well, they won. Is that going to be your defense for trespassing? This shit is so stupid, man. I'm not going to change my stance on it. And I got to be honest with you, I'm open to hearing people's thoughts on things. There's no thought that can really change my mind about this because I just don't think it needs to happen. And I mean, if Caitlin Clark got hurt, significantly hurt, and it ended her season, would this still fucking be the case? Would they change this? Like what? How much longer is this going to go on? How much longer until they finally put, their foot down and say, yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not the best idea to allow a bunch of students that are drunk probably and are hyper and rowdy to come onto the court seconds after a game ends. Maybe we should protect our student athletes more, our players more, our coaches more, our media personnel more. I mean, good God. All right. So anyway, I want to talk about the NFL playoffs. I know some people are interested in my thoughts. I'll give you my thoughts. First off, that first game, the Lions and Bucks. I mean, let's talk about it. I thought the Lions were by far the better team. I didn't really think the Bucks had much of a chance, but Baker Mayfield, I thought, played really, really well. I know he had 2 interceptions. One was terrible at the very end, trying to make a play. Shouldn't have thrown it. The first one was a tipped pass, which again, I get it. Okay, it's on the quarterback to a degree, but, tough stuff there. Hard to win games like that. I don't know why Tampa just abandoned the run. Rashad White was averaging, over 5 yards per carry. So I don't know why they just abandoned the run like that. Mike Evans, there was no, they could not, there was no answer. They could not stop him. That secondary of Detroit is still very much an issue. I mean, we saw it today. They got away with some holding, but for the most part, you did start to see those calls, and that's just been their secondary all year, really, just incapable of, covering the right way. And I understand they lost Emmanuel Mosley, who's their second corner, but their first corner is also not very good. So, that's what I'll say. So then, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, he ran well. Montgomery ran well. I wouldn't say Montgomery ran that well. Laporta looks good off the injury, so that's good to see. I thought Goff played well. As long as he wasn't pressured, I thought he looked pretty good. Defense put a lot of pressure on Baker. I didn't see a lot of pressure on Jared Goff. I thought the Bucs would get more pressure. Can the Lions win it all? I mean, anything's possible. I still feel like this team right now, just this secondary, like this offense can put up points, but this defense, I mean, the secondary is an issue. And to give up 349 yards to Baker Mayfield and was it 360 something to Stafford? I mean, what's Brock Purdy going to do? Because Brock Purdy is actually good when you blitz him. He's good against pressure. Jared Goff is not. The 49ers are going to be an awful matchup, in my opinion, for the Lions. Can they win? Absolutely. But the Lions are a completely different animal when they are at home at Ford Field instead of on the road. And the 49ers are a really good home team. So my thoughts are really, it's not that I, think the Lions are bad. Obviously, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the season started, and they're 1 game away. It's just that when you look at next week and you're saying you're going to try and, put together a preview. The 49ers, they have some issues on their offensive line. Brock Purdy, when he's down in games, can struggle. Brock Purdy's not great against when it's a rainy game, so I don't think it's going to rain this week, but if it does, that's interesting. Those are the weaknesses. I mean, you can throw on the Niners. They let you throw on them, but they're not horrible. But this Lions defense, you can throw all over this secondary. Jared Goff folds like a lawn chair as soon as he's pressured. When he's not, he's great. And I just, for me, I just don't think, I think that's all it takes. The 49ers are not going to have a game like they did against the Packers again these playoffs. I'm sorry, they're not going to. They're going to be ready to go next week, at Levi Stadium, and they're not going to be right off a bye. They're going to be in game shape. So, yeah, I don't like it for the Lions, but again, we'll see. It just takes one game, and, I won't rule it out, but it feels like there's a considerable gap between the 49ers and whoever was going to come out of this game, which we kind of all expected was going to be the Lions. But you got to give the credit to the Buccaneers. They were not a great team this year. They rallied at the end of the season, put together a potential, game-tying drive, put themselves in position for a potential game-tying drive. So, I like the fight. I think Baker definitely deserves to be there long term. We'll see what ends up happening, but that Bucs team was not very good this year, and they overachieved for sure. Definitely, at least in my opinion, Bowles is not on the hot seat. He's going to be safe after that one. That was a good performance against a team that's just clearly better than them. Okay, let's move on to the last game, which was the Kansas City Chiefs taking down the Buffalo Bills yet again in the playoffs. The 11-6 Chiefs, they missed out on the 2 seed. It actually ended up going to the Bills last game of the year. It was 2 or 3 weeks before they weren't even in the playoffs. So wild stuff. The Bills surged. They were 7-2 at home. They beat the Chiefs on the road. They lost at home. This was not This was not the best performance by the Bills. I thought you saw some great things out of Josh Allen, but as far as the receiving room, it was kind of pathetic and pedestrian. Stephon Diggs can't drop a deep bomb that Allen threw right into his arms. And then you had a drop that Trent Sherfield had. Why you're going deep to Trent Sherfield is beyond me. I know Khalil Shakir, who's kind of become their number one receiver as of late, he's gotten banged up. He got banged up in this one. Dalton Kincaid, I thought, looked really good, but only 5 targets to Kincaid, so they got to do better than that. The run game was kind of there. I mean, I thought Ty Johnson ran hard. I thought James Cook looked solid. Josh Allen ran. But this was a game where I think you started to see like the Bills defense is really starting to feel it they were really starting to feel it as far as the injuries. So I think they were kind of put in that, tough position there. But credit the Chiefs. They went on the road. Everyone talked about it. Big storyline. Oh, it's Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game. And, I thought he looked pretty darn good. I don't think either of these teams right now, you could really trust their weapons. But, I thought Pacheco ran hard. I thought Kelsey with his 2 touchdowns was clutch for them. Rashee Rice, Mecole Hardman fumbling out of the back of the end zone was massive. Not in a good way for the Chiefs. It kept the Bills in it. I think this is just one of those games where, it kind of just reinforces. I mean, if you're a Bills fan, yeah, they went through a lot, but it's brutal. It makes you feel like, when the hell is it going to be our year? I mean, it kind of felt like the Bills were kind of destined to at least get to the Super Bowl, or, at least get to the AFC title game, maybe the Super Bowl, and losing again to the Chiefs, a team that this is not like a great Chiefs team. There's some things I like. There's a lot of things I don't like, but, the Bills' weapons just went cold in this one. I mean, just really unproductive. And, it's just gotten to the point where, I mean, how much longer is the Stephon Diggs thing going to last? He's been a great receiver for sure, but I even feel like he doesn't want to be there. You're throwing a Trent Sherfield in a playoff game like 3 times, targeting him more than Dawson Knox. And I don't really get it. So, yeah, they're just in a weird boat right now. I'm not sure. I mean, the Bills are going to have to pay a lot of guys because they have a lot of incoming free agents and everything. So that's something to keep in mind. This has just got to be absolutely demoralizing. And, of course, it's another wide right moment for them. I just don't know how, Tyler Bass ends up missing that field goal. I mean, that is just absolutely brutal for the Bills fans. Absolutely brutal. Really not something I expected. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I really, I left the room actually, when it was clear that they weren't going to get it. And he was going to attempt the field goal. And I just assumed they got it. And I was going to come back downstairs. And, I came back and they were, in victory formation on the Chiefs side. And I was like, what the hell? So, yeah, it was just, it was a exciting divisional round. I could have gone without the Ravens-Texans game. That was kind of boring, but one possession game, 3-point game for the 49ers, Green Bay Packers. Technically a one possession game with the Lions and Bucks. 8-point game, and then a touchdown, and then a 3-point game, Chiefs and Bills. So relatively competitive, which is normally what you're going to see because, I mean, the wild card round is always kind of a, it's always just a crapshoot. I mean, really, you had a 45-14 game, you had 26-7, you had 48-32, in a game that really felt like 48-7. You had a 31-17 game, and then you had a 32-9 game. The only one that was even close was the Rams and Lions, 24-23. So, yeah, it just, it's been, the playoffs have been kind of disappointing for me. I thought this week, obviously better games, but you got to think. I mean, looking at the divisional round, did you really think that the Texans were part of the Elite Eight? Because I didn't. The Ravens, I did. Green Bay, I did. I thought they really deserved to be there. San Francisco, obviously. Detroit. Tampa just did not feel like they deserved to be there. Like, it's almost like the Rams and Lions should have played this week. But yeah, it's just... It's been kind of, some good, some bad, some ugly. That's kind of always the NFL playoffs. But now we're down to the last two. My prediction is pretty much the chalk. I'm going to say that it's, Ravens, 49ers, and I think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. That's just my thought. But I will be rooting for the Lions. And I'm going to explain that. I'm going to address that to end the show here. There are Lions fans that don't want me to root for their team because I wasn't on their side before. Now, here's how I'm going to look at this. I've decided to turn over a new leaf. My thought process is this. And I don't care how mean or egotistical this sounds, I'm going to say it. The way I see it is, before, I didn't want Lions fans to be happy. But really, I didn't want, the dickhead Lions fans that are sending death threats to people that I know, and myself. Again, that doesn't really bother me. But when you're sending death threats to, my co-hosts and shit like that, that bothers me. I didn't want those people to be happy, right? Well, in reality, if that's the case, then why would you root for the Lions over the 49ers? Well, the 49ers are the Rams' arch rival. Just because the 49ers fans don't know their own history does not mean that the Rams and 49ers aren't a rivalry. And that's the fact. People can say all they want, oh, no, we hate the Seahawks. It's like, no, you don't understand your own history. Okay? You don't get history. The Rams and 49ers are a rivalry that's lasted for decades. The Seahawks were in the AFC. They haven't even been in the NFC that long. So, I can't root for the 49ers. No, ain't no way. And so, then people are like, well, how can you root for the Lions and their fans? Here's my thing. The nice fans, the cool fans, the fans that didn't act like total douchebags, I can be happy for them. The fans that acted like douchebags, they don't exist. They don't mean anything. If you're a Rams fan and you don't know who to root for between the 49ers and that, 60, 70 year history between the two? And not really, but I think it's like 50, 60, something like that. If you're deciding between the Niners and the fucking Lions because of their fans on Twitter, I mean, come on. I understand you're upset. I'm upset too. Like, I'm not upset. I'm disappointed. I'm annoyed. I feel like this was such a good opportunity for the Rams. They should be probably going to the Super Bowl next week. But here's the deal. The Lions, I don't have to love what they're doing. I don't have to love the hits. I don't have to love Dan Campbell, the way he talks about how this is what we do in Detroit, all of that. But I'll say this. If you're focused on random ass fans that were nasty, don't look at look at it like this. They don't fucking exist. They don't exist. Who the fuck are they? It's a bunch of fucking losers. I mean, total fucking bottom of the barrel scum. I don't care. I'm going to root for whoever the fuck I want. And it's not going to be the 49ers. Bottom line is, I would rather see Jared Goff and the Lions with former Rams. I would rather see that. That's the thing. I would rather see that. I'd rather see those guys win than see the Niners win. It shouldn't be that hard to believe. It shouldn't. But for some people, it is. So that's how I see it. That's how I look at it. Well, Jake, what about those mean fans? They don't exist. I don't know who the fuck they are. They know who I am. I live rent-free in their fucking skull. But as far as them, I don't know their names. I don't know where they live. I don't know what they do for a living. I don't care about them. I don't know who the fuck they are. Why should I sit here and be influenced by people that literally mean as much as this dead fruit fly that just died on my desk? Think about that. Like, really, think about that. Why the fuck should I care? I mean, they are the gum under your shoe. Who the fuck cares? If they're happy, we'll never see it. Plus, I muted most of them, so I don't need to see them anyway. I mean, I probably know more about their team than they do. That's the funny thing I laugh at. I probably know more about their Lions team than they do. So that's how I look at it. Ain't no way, no how am I rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. There's just no fucking chance in hell. I'll leave it on that. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already on all podcast platforms. Tell a friend, share it around, and be sure to leave a nice review. Hopefully it's 5 stars. That's going to do it. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys or talk to you guys. Well, if you follow the YouTube channel, then I'll see you, but I'll talk to you tomorrow. You guys take care. See you guys soon.